Hey guys, welcome back to the Power Pack channel. I'm Wesley, and recently I read the Batman Knightfall storyline, which is part of the three-part storyline of Knightfall, Knightquest, and Knightsend that DC did in the early 90s. So, in this video, I'm going to break it down. So, this was a story that I was interested in reading for a while, and I got the trade paperback of the prelude to this Knightfall story, which I did a video on a couple weeks ago, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. And then when I was getting some books in, my store got a collection in, and they had the full run of the Knightfall story. So I decided to pick it up to read it, and that's how I read it in the single issues, which there are omnibus for this and the two other storylines in this saga, but I really liked reading it in the single issues. So getting into the story, it picks up right away after the stories before it in the prequel issues, with Bane breaking out all of the criminals from Arkham. So the story picks up in Batman 492 with Batman and Robin, who at this point Batman is right at his breaking point. He's exhausted physically and mentally, and he's starting to push Robin away, and he doesn't want Robin's help because he thinks he's strong enough to get through it on his own. So in these first early issues, it's Batman hunting down these criminals that have escaped Arkham and are trying to take back what they lost in the criminal underworld of Gotham. So it's kind of like Batman going on the hunt for all these criminals. So that takes place in, like I said, this issue, which is the first of Knightfall. And he goes after the Mad Hatter, who is having a tea party with a bunch of the other criminals. So Batman gets a couple people there. This one is focuses on Ventriloquist and Amygdala, who you see on the cover there. And Batman 493, which is a Victor Zsasz story, I really enjoyed, because it was cool to see Batman scoring off against Zsasz. And then it hops over to Detective Comics in 660, which this is a really cool Sam Keith cover, which Robin, because Batman has doesn't want his help, Robin goes off on his own and ends up following Killer Croc and Bane to the sewers, where he is kind of captured and Batman has to end up rescuing him. Then we've got Batman 494, which is a story with Joker and Scarecrow, which starts in this issue and kind of happens in the background for a couple of them, with Joker and Scarecrow kidnapping the mayor of Gotham and using Scarecrow's fear gas to make him call different people within the city. So, like, say they know Bane is going to try to rob this bank, for example. They'll call the police and say a different crime is happening over here. So all the cops go over to that fake thing that's happening so Bane can rob the bank without any trouble. In Detective Comics 661 starts a story with Firefly as he's trying to burn down different landmarks in Gotham. Got Poison Ivy here in Batman 495. Another really cool Sam Keith cover on Detective Comics 662. And then in Batman 496, we get more of that with Scarecrow and Joker, and Batman gets influenced by the fear gas. And this story happens close to the Death in the Family story where Jason Todd died. So when Batman gets ingested with the fear gas, he starts to have visions that's like saying, Jason Todd's death was your fault, it's all you, it's your fault he died. So he starts to freak out about that, but Batman being Batman, he eventually pushes through. Then we've got Detective Comics 663. And then the issue that everyone knows and is kind of the iconic one from this storyline is Batman 497, which is issue 11 of the Knightfall story. And this is the one where Bane breaks Batman. So this is actually a really nice copy, and after I was done reading it, I looked over it, and I think it could be a contender for a 9.8, So I'm working on a CGC or CBCS, I'm not sure what I'm going to submit yet, pre-screen. So I'll throw that in there. And if it comes back a 9.8, awesome. That'll be a great book to have in the collection. And if not, then I'll just keep it raw. So next up we have Detective Comics 664, which is kind of Robin, Alfred, and Jean-Paul Valley dealing with the aftermath of Bane breaking Bruce Wayne's back and how they're going to keep the city safe while Bruce Wayne heals. And then I really liked these issues, the Showcase 93, issue 7, and issue 8, because it takes place when Robin, Alfred, and Jean-Paul are watching over Bruce Wayne while he's still in a coma, and it kind of gives flashbacks to some villains that they were trying to take out during the Arkham breakout time that we didn't see in the issues, and kind of like thinking back on what would happen if Bruce Wayne is paralyzed forever and he can't be Batman, and what they're going to do if to have a Batman while he's healing. Then we have Batman 498, and this issue is when Azrael really takes over as Batman, and he gets his own Batman suit, and he starts to fight crime again as Batman, because for 3 weeks there was no Batman, and everybody thought he was dead, because Batman broke Bruce Wayne in the middle of the city, and a lot of people saw it, and it was all over the news and everything, so everybody thinks Batman's dead at this point. So then we get to Shadow of the Bat, which these aren't numbered issues of the Knightfall story, but they take place at the same time with Jean-Paul Valley as Batman. So we have Shadow of the Bat 16, the God of Fear story, which is Scarecrow using the fear gas to control an army of university students to do his bidding for him. Here's issue 17. And these are all really cool covers painted by Brian Stelfreeze, which I really like. And then issue 18. Now these stories, it's kind of a side thing to Knightfall, so you don't have to read them for the main story, but I really liked it, and this is kind of where it fits into the timeline, so that's where I read them. Then we get to Detective Comics 665, which is when Azrael really starts to go crazy as Batman, and he starts to brutally beat and almost kill these criminals, which Robin obviously is very against because, Batman doesn't kill, and Jean-Paul is getting to that point where he's about to do it, and he's kind of tarnishing the reputation of Batman. And it's also the issue where he makes the first part of his iconic armor, which shows up later in these Knight storylines. He makes the power gloves for that suit in this issue, which you can see on the cover here of Batman 499. And again, this just continues with Jean-Paul being Batman and slowly and becoming more brutal and violent, and Robin's trying to stop him. But just like Bruce Wayne did at the start of the story, Jean-Paul is kind of forcing Tim Drake, Robin, out and doesn't want his help. Then we've got Detective Comics 666 here, which is a very pause-worthy cover. In this issue, Jean-Paul realizes he can't just keep fighting these low-level criminals, these robbers. He wants to go directly to the source of Bane, which he thinks is the only way to stop this chaos going on in the city. And because back in the prequel issues, he was humiliated by Bane because Bane didn't think he was much of a threat, so he didn't want to fight him and just left after he was beaten by Killer Croc. So Jean-Paul, his ego is hurt. So he wants to go and take Bane out to show that he is a worthy opponent and is stronger than everyone thinks he is. And then we have Batman 500, which is a double-sized issue. And this is the one which I really enjoyed this issue because it was mainly a big fight between Jean-Paul and Bane. And it's also when he makes his new suit, which is what he wears for the next while in these Knight storylines they did. and then Jean-Paul ends up beating Bane, and he almost kills Bane, but then Robin gets there just in time and kind of convinces him not to, which makes Robin realize that maybe he can control himself and he is a good choice for to take over the mantle of Batman while Bruce Wayne heals. So there isn't really that much of a big wrap-up conclusion to this storyline because, as I said, it's the first in a 3-part saga, with the next being Knightquest, which, if I can find the issues, I want to read it, so if I can find the issues or maybe a collected edition, and then find the 3rd story arc in this saga too, so that'll be really cool. So my overall opinion and thoughts on this storyline. I really liked the build-up at the beginning of Bruce Wayne hunting down these criminals that Bane let out from Arkham, and how Bane is just watching him and trying to figure out his moves and how he's going to take him out, leading up to that issue 497 where Bane eventually does, and then Jean-Paul taking over and him trying to prove himself as Batman. I really enjoyed that. And the art on these issues, it varies from title to title and issue to issue, with most of it being done by Jim Aparo in the Batman title and Graham Nolan on Detective Comics. And the writing was done by Chuck Dixon in Detective and Doug Moench on Batman. So I really liked the art style. It fit with the story. And the covers were also really cool. They had varying artists throughout, with some of those Sam Keith ones that I showed, which I really liked. His art style is really cool. And the writing with Chuck Dixon and Doug Moench kind of sharing it between the titles really worked. I felt they probably worked together on the storylines, and I felt they meshed them within the 2 titles pretty good. And like I said earlier, I really liked how they slowly built it up, and then you got to that breaking point, quite literally, of Bane breaking Batman, and then Azrael taking over. And I'm excited to see where it goes, or where it went, because, the series is from the 90s, but where it goes with the Knightquest and then Knightsend story. So that'll be cool to read those once I get those issues. So that's it for my breakdown and thoughts on the Batman Knightfall story. And if you guys enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on any other storylines you think I should read or you'd like to see me break down. So I'm going to hopefully do these types of videos for for some of the bigger storylines and issues that I'm reading, and so I can share my thoughts and what I liked and didn't like with you guys. So and remember, the Power Pack show every Sunday at 5:30 EST. So come check us out there, and we're going to have lots of videos coming out. So keep an eye out for that, and see you guys in the next video or live show.